My first novel was fiction based, but it had, when I say based, it was inspired a lot by my grandparents. So I think that memoir writing is a great way for us to connect with ourselves. And then,
Can we drink during this?
Hello and welcome back to Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast. I am Janice Debo, your host. And with me, I have my awesome writers group of ladies. We're going to be discussing what we write, why we write, and the legacy of writing. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Janice.
thank you.
You're welcome. First off, let's get an introduction from my friend Anna. Anna, tell us who you are and a little bit about you.
I'm Anna Citrino. I live in Sonoma County, California. I write poetry and also essays. I have two chapbooks and two books, and I'm writing another one that's coming out this fall.
Fantastic. And your work is beautiful. Shelley, tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to.
Yeah, my name is Shelley Shepherd, and I'm also in California. And I'm new to writing, in the form of actually writing down pages and having other people review them in this group. So that's a new thing for me about the last 18 months, and I'm actually working on my own personal memoir story slash. I don't know if it will ever be published, but I'm writing it mostly for healing and uh, I don't know. I think mostly healing right now.
Yeah, very good. Mona?
I'm Mona James. I live in the Houston, Texas area. I've been an attorney for many decades and a new writer. I finished my first novel, started on it during the pandemic. I published it in December 2022, self-published, and now I'm working on the second one. I've had many dates that I had hoped to have the second one finished, but I think July 1st is a new good date. So I'm working on it and hope to have it done by this year. And I do have my first novel here. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see.
There you
Name
go.
it's the first one.
Very nice.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Yeah, we're
Glad
all
to
over
be
the country because I'm in Oregon and my regular listeners know me. And this writers group we started about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. It's just hard to believe. It's been very helpful to me. So any aspiring writers out there, if you can get in a writers group, it's very supportive and encouraging. Not to mention we can find each other's oopses and little errors that we can make when we're writing. But I'm an author of Courage, Confidence, and Connections Journal, as my listeners already know, and working on my memoirs as well. And so we've talked about this before, but it is difficult to write your memoirs. So let's talk about that and why that might be
Mm.
the case. Because Anna, you've probably been in more writers groups and written longer than all of us. So what are your thoughts on writing memoirs for our audience?
Well, I don't actually write memoir, but
But from
uh,
your perspective,
um, I think it's a great way to explore your inner self and what you value and help the process of writing to bring out more of how you see the world and how it might connect to the world around you.
very good. You other Mona, Shelley, whatever you want to share in regards to writing memoirs, and Shelley, you're writing yours, and of course I am.
Well, I my first novel was fiction based, but it had, when I say based, it was inspired a lot by my grandparents. So I think that memoir writing is a great way for us to connect with ourselves and then also to connect with others who have shared experiences. So I think it's a great form of writing and a great way for us to connect with each other.
Mm.
It really is. I found it challenging because it does bring out a lot of emotional ties with what we're writing about, even if it's our family or ourselves. It's pretty much the same way. I know, Shelley, you're working on
Mm.
ours, and of course, we've all talked about that. How difficult.
Yeah, it is. I think, well, I know I went to a I went to a writing workshop last year in Cape Cod, and the instructor was just finishing a book on permission. And she's written several books, maybe 5 or 6 books. But this particular one, she was just finishing. And so we got to hear pieces of the book during some of the instruction. And I think when we're writing memoir, it is who's giving us permission. A lot of times people feel that they do not have permission to write about someone else. And in fact, in her writing and in her position, it just came out. I think her book just came out the beginning of May, but permission is really granted from us. We give ourselves permission to write it and to tell the story. And yes, there may be others that are included in that story, but we really don't need permission. And I think I'm still trying to cross that bridge. I don't think I've completely crossed it. In fact, I posted something on Mother's Day that the next day I completely like pulled that thing down. No, I was like, "Am I ready for this? I don't think I'm ready for this." And so I think it's like that. Sometimes you go back and forth, and then you just keep writing.
I totally agree because I think I've given myself permission. So many people in my storyline are not here anymore, so I can't get their permission. And I don't even know that I have the whole story. It's always our perspective, not the whole picture and the whole truth.
Mm,
What is that
mm,
saying? We see things as we are, not as they are, really.
right.
And and so, but I love Anna's writing as well. Anna, your poetry is phenomenal. So what put you into writing poetry and how long have you been doing this?
Ooh. I mean, I don't know. I started probably when I was in grade 7 or something,
Oh my gosh.
but not like seriously writing poetry. My grandpa on my dad's side wrote poetry, and my dad wrote poetry. So it was kind of something that really grabbed me when I was a kid. It was really powerful for me to read my father's work. And so it seemed like a natural thing to want to try. And I like it because it helps me to look at the world more carefully and fully and to live it, just examine life more deeply. And so, and a lot of times I don't feel like I'm living fully or completely until I also write about it. So it's a way to experience everything more completely. Yeah, that's kind of why I write poetry. And even though I write story, it's sort of like a novel. I'm writing novels in verse. Um, I like that I'm entering into another person's way of thinking and being and exploring their world. And I like what Thich Nhat Hanh says when you release the traumas of people from the past by when you release them in yourself, you release them from the past and from the future. So writing is a way of transforming challenges and difficulties. So I think it's a really valuable thing to do, and I recommend it as a way to stay sane.
I totally agree. I have journaled for, I don't know, 30 years or something. I have a bunch to prove it, but excuse me. Didn't get anything to drink over here. Sorry about that, ladies. Anyway, so Anna, but your latest writing that we're reading off and on is based on your family history, correct?
Yeah, I interviewed family members to get the some of the details and the stories and the history, and I've done a lot of research about the time period to fill in a lot of questions I had and just to get a more sense of the era and the challenges of the time period.
Mm,
So then, of course, what I'm really interested in writing about what's underneath what's said. Like a lot of times people don't talk about their real
mm,
the real deep things inside of them. So I like to explore that. What is the story underneath the story? Because both the book I wrote about Italian immigrants to San Francisco at the turn of the last century, and the one I'm writing now, which is about homesteaders, they didn't basically talk much. It was about their inner life.
Hmm.
They probably didn't have the vocabulary, but also the time period, it's just people didn't really do that much. And a lot of times when people have a lot of trauma or stress in their life, they don't like to talk about it because it brings it forward too much and they don't know how to deal with it. So that's a good reason to be a writer is someone who can help people to touch that space in their life in
Mm.
a sort of safe way.
Very true. Mona,
Mm.
what's your perspective on this? And tell us a little bit about your writing, because yours is based, you said, I know it's fiction, but it's based on some facts too.
Yes, it is inspired by some of my family history. And I will add on and agree with what Anna has said. Even speaking with older relatives, aunts, and grandparents, a lot of things that happened in their past, they're not so happy to share, and not necessarily because of their actions, but maybe just because of the time period and the things that went on when they were children and when they grew up. A lot of times they'll have the attitude, I don't remember. I don't want to talk about that. Is what we get a lot.
Mhm.
So it is important, for us to share our stories and when we can, to honor the things that our family has gone through, but also to kind of, respect their feelings as well. A lot of it we can piece together and pull from history books and from events in that past because we knew where you were in this state in this decade. We know what happened then. What's your opinion on it? So it would be great to know that, but it's not, as Anna said, always an easy story to
Mm.
receive from family.
Well, that's true. And it all winds up being hearsay, I guess, as it's passed down the line. It's like the telephone game. You never know if it's going to come out the same, but that was a different time period. I think we're all talking similar. Anna's talking homesteaders. Mine is more starting around the 50s and 60s. And I think Mona, yours goes back and forth as well. And Shelley's yours. We're all in the 19th, well, the 20th century, not the 19th century. I don't think we go that far back. I don't know anybody back that far. But but I agree because I didn't hear stories growing up. I
Mm.
My mother told me a few things, but my grandmother never ever talked about things. Neither did my great aunt or any of that. I just put pieces together, I guess, over the years. And if they're gone, you can't get that story and you have to embellish. Let's talk about that because as writers, we all do some embellishing, don't we? I know I have to fill in some blanks. I guess they call it writers. There's a word for that. But liber we take liberties, I guess is the word.
Creative liberties. Yes.
Creative liberties. Yes. Thank you, Mona. How much creative liberty have you gals taken in your writing?
Well, you need to recreate the scene. So imagination is really important. And I think, fiction or just telling story really helps people to create empathy for the characters that are in the story. So if when you're writing, I kind of feel like I'm like channeling something. It's like I just listen deeply inside myself for what wants to emerge. And I think about what I know, what I've read about the background, how I imagine the character, and then I just listen deeply for what should appear. And I try to recreate the scene and the tone and the details that will make it alive for someone else when they're reading it. If it can make it alive for me, then hopefully it will be alive for whoever's reading it. So the imagination is incredibly important. And I think it's probably downplayed a lot in our regular lives. We say, oh, got to get real. You have that expression, but it's the imagination that creates the life in us, that it's created the world. It's like
Mm.
it's what brings us alive. And
Right.
that's why writing is a creative act. Like any other creative act, it transforms and enlightens us.
So how does imagination is, I think we have to relearn that as we get older and learn how to just get out of our heads and hear our hearts on that imagination piece. Also, when it comes to writing, how much research goes into your writings, ladies? I know Anna mentioned it in her writing because you've got to look into the time period, but how much research, Mona, especially you're published in your book. Did you have to do a lot of research outside of the family stuff, time period wise?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And so the attorney in me, I said, what is that disclaimer that they put in movies? And so I had to look it up because I couldn't grab it. But it always talks about the characters are fictional, not based on real people or events. You put that in there. And that kind of, gives that disclaimer for that creative liberty. But even so, pulling stories from my family, I still had to go back and check what were the vehicles like in that day. Um,
Mm.
Even because one of my stories is about a long road trip. So what kind of, preparations went into long road trips in the 40s and 50s? What type of vehicles were they? Um, Stopping for gas and things like that and lodging. So yeah, even though you may start it off as a story about, a family road trip, you still have to do research about that area and the routes that were taken and uh, can you drive, a 1940s or 50s vehicle for 12 hours a day? So that's just one of example of things I had to research in writing a particular story, for my current novel.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's fascinating because if we think about it, it's not so different than I guess the research that's done for a movie and looking into the time periods, and also the culture is huge in our research. I think we have to look at the culture of the times because in my story, things that happened to my mom, I have to go back and look at the culture and how people thought at that time period and how people responded to what she might have been going through and why she might have made decisions she did. Shelley, can I have you reflect on that a little bit on your story? Because our stories are not so dissimilar in some of the things that happened in that
Mm.
time period.
I don't know that I have gotten into the research or the imagination space yet. I feel like I'm just trying to recreate in my mind what actually I remember, what
Mhm.
the story, what I remember of the stories. And it's interesting. I was sharing one of my essays with my sister. I read it to her last year, and then I heard through the grapevine. She told my older sister. She's like, I don't think any of that happened. I just don't believe it that way. you know and so those kinds of things happen too, and it's interesting when it's our perspective, and then when it's factual, like a street or a highway or something like that that you have to get the detail on. But um but my mind's pretty clear about what happened in that particular story. But for my sister, it was just, yeah, she was like, I don't think that's how it happened. Of course, she didn't tell me. She had to tell my older sister. But
Isn't
so
that
I
how
think that happens too.
Yeah, that's how it is with siblings, I think. I've mentioned things to my sister in the past and she goes, "No, that's not how they were and that's not what happened." And yet I got it from my mom, so I'm thinking, I don't know. I guess I need to believe my mom because my sister's 7 years younger. So it's a matter of, how you hear it. Like that game telephone again. It's like
Mm.
I can say it, but you're going to hear it different than I might say it. We've got different backgrounds, different lives, and everything. So I love to talk about legacy because that's a very important thing to me. I don't have kids. And so leaving a legacy of my writing is one way I can leave a footprint in this earth. So I'd love your perspectives on the legacy piece. If you have a perspective, if you don't, that's okay too.
Mm.
What do
Well,
you,
probably these two that have authored books could probably answer that better than than the position that I'm in, trying to figure out this story. But I can see the benefits of having it written down for sure.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, I know there's healing for ourselves as we write in different ways, but legacy impacts others. So yeah, let's talk about that. I think
Yeah.
it's very important.
Well, my thought is if we do a good job, and maybe that's why I guess I was hesitant because a lot of people, or people in my family may not think that I portrayed them in a good light or in a
Yeah.
true light. As Shelley said too, her and her sister had different viewpoints on what went on. So maybe a personal legacy. I don't know about a family legacy, but it does bring I guess, a foundation to it because it's there and it will always be there, the words that I've written. But it's still up to the reader to take it, as they see. So yeah, legacy is hard, I think, for anyone to define for themselves or
Mm.
for their family. I don't think I know what my legacy will be just yet. I'm still working on it.
Oh, that's good. Well, in being an attorney, you probably deal with people who want to leave a financial legacy or things like that. And a lot of times we think about the legacy being something physical, but it's not. Our words are a legacy. And so the whole podcast will be in infamy. It's never going to go away. Never, never.
And
Unless,
she says that right in the middle of us recording.
Exactly.
I
Like
know
you
you
could have
could
told
have
us that
saved that
beforehand.
till we were offline.
yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Trying to make you gals famous, make all of us famous. Anna, what do you think about legacy? How does that impact you and your thoughts?
Well, for me, I think the legacy is not just about our family or our family heritage or that story, or I just want my words to help people feel alive in the world.
Mhm.
Mm.
That's the legacy, and it's a little ripple out, a small ripple. If it touches someone's life and helps them to look at the world more deeply or see themselves inside the writing. I mean, even though I'm writing about, and some of my books are about different time periods, I think they're also about right now. Because as William Faulkner says, the past is never finished, it's not even past.
Yeah.
And so uh, I think that everything we do, the words we give, the actions we take, we are here to experience life as deeply as we can. And the words are a way, a gift. They're a kind of prayer, you could say, that you are offering back to life, into the world around you for what it's given you. And so, I mean, I'm not interested in being famous, or I really doubt that's ever going to happen. And I really not sure I'd be comfortable with it, how to cope with that. But I do hope that what I give to others touches their lives in some way that enriches their own well-being and their own inner spirit.
I agree. I love what
Mm.
you said. I think that, what was that quote again where you said William Faulkner?
I don't know if I have it exactly, but the past is never past. It's the idea that, yeah, it's not even finished. I can get to you maybe the exact one if I can find it here, but
Yeah, I like that though. Think about it because our heritage, our past, our families have impacted who we are today. And telling our stories gets it out there, and we don't know who it's going to touch, whose life it might change, and you know, they might relate to. So it's important that we tell our stories. That's just a big, big deal to me. Some people tell it through music, some people tell it through writing like we do, others tell it in movies. But you gals know I'm very much impacted by movies and music so it's all over my writing, of course. And so I like the fact, have you the movie The Help? Have you gals seen The Help?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, remember the line in there where she's being asked to get information for the book, and the main character says, "Well, I can write it down better than I can tell you," and so I started writing down my stories. And she says she writes her prayers down, but she also wrote her stories down. That says a lot. Writing our stories out helps us, but it also can impact the world around us. And we never know who it's going to affect, do we? Like Anna, your writing is so I see I can literally see it's like you write in color is the best way.
Mm.
You write in color and your descriptions are so vivid. I'm almost jealous of your ability to write like that, but I can't be because I'm not you and I write differently. And Mona, yours is like a movie playing when I read your writing. It's just like a movie screen going across. So who knows, we might all have our movies out there one day.
I believe so. Yes.
What would you say to somebody who's thinking they want to write and they keep thinking about it, but they're hesitant, they're afraid nobody will care. So what kind of advice should we give our prospective writers and audience out there?
Yeah, I'll go first. One of the best tips of advice about being a writer. Well, number one is a good writer is a good reader, that you must read a lot in different genres and different types of writing. But the other one is sit in a chair, get in a chair, sit there and make it a habit, not just an option. You have to set a time, um, preferably that you write every day, or you could do a word count. For me, it's the time period. I don't necessarily try to stick to the number of words that I write each day, but I give myself like a block of time to actually, give my attention to my writing and have it become a habit, not just worrying about whether it's good creatively or structurally sound or grammatically correct, but just my ability to sit there and get the words out is the best advice that I have received. Just do it, write it, be a good reader, and be a disciplined writer in terms of dedicating time to your craft.
Excellent. How about Anna, Shelley? Who would you, what would you say for someone in that position?
Go ahead, Shelley.
Um, yeah, I have a reminder on my calendar that comes up at I think 7 o'clock every morning that says write 3 pages every day. And that was the workshop that I went to a couple of years ago with Julia Cameron, right? She's the pages, she's the pages writer. But what I had found also is that when that 7 a.m. Alarm goes off, I might not be in the mood to write. And so forcing myself to fit into a schedule doesn't always yield good writing. It might be that it happened later in the day, or I had a cancellation, in my work schedule, and so I took that time to write. But I think it's the intention, right? It's whatever the intention that we have to accomplish the story that we must tell, and figuring out that story, and then beginning to write about that story. That's the intention. Is I want to write this story, not, oh, I got to get this on my calendar so that I can sit down and write every day. I agree with Mona. You've got to get in the seat, right? You've got to spend some time writing, because writers write.
All right.
Very true. I would agree with both of you because we're all different. And for me, it's a creative thing. It's got to come from some inspiration. I just like I'll sit down. Sundays have kind of been my day to write blogs again. And I give myself a liberty to write whatever I feel, one or two blogs, write some of my book, however that comes out, or read. And I love that a writer must be a reader. I think that's profound wisdom because reading different types of work gives you different ideas on how you should write. I'm reading a book called Finding Dorothy right now. and it's about the Dorothy character from The Wizard of Oz. It's a great book, but I'm getting ideas on how to lay out my book just from reading hers. So that's helpful. Anna, what would you give a young writer or somebody aspiring to write their story or write in general?
Well, I agree with what others have said. You need to sit and write. I'm not one of those people that has a super strict schedule about writing because I'm not always, I basically don't like schedules.
I hear you.
I live too much of my life where every second counted on a schedule, so I don't really like that. But I keep a journal. I've kept journals since I was a child, but write down things I notice or things that strike me, and I try to keep part of my ear open to the world so that if something says this is it, like, oh, pay attention, this detail, this way somebody said something, or this certain color in the sky, or the something that like that. Jot them down. I just write them down. I don't have to be writing a story. I'm just writing in my journal, and that's kind of like my seed thoughts, you know. And then I go back through my journal and I put little dots or symbols by things. I thought, oh, this could become something, you know. This is pay attention to this. And one of my teachers, Nicholas Samaras, is a poet. He said and I was feeling really badly that I wasn't writing as much as I wanted to. And he said, you know, writing isn't always just like you in the chair writing it. He didn't say these exact words, but you're always writing something like in your head. This you're remembering something, and you can jot it down. And but it's good not to let too much time go by, or you might forget that thing. You know, it's just already gone. So I use my journals a lot to help me, so I don't just start with a blank page. And if I'm writing a bigger piece, I do a lot of thought, just like, well, what is this character's values? What do they think? Or what are some things that I think are really important that I would want to bring forward in this certain piece? So I do a lot of pre-writing, I'd say, before I actually write something. But not always. Sometimes it's just like I sit down and it just something comes, but that it's not going to always come just through inspiration. It's you just jot down things that you're thinking is really helpful.
It is, and I do journal every day, so I can't say I don't write. I write something every day in my journal at the very least, even if it's just what I had for breakfast. Sometimes that's all there is. And and you know what? Maybe I've even written in my journal at times when I've written something stupid, and I'll say, "Whoever's reading this, have fun. I'm gone now." So, you never know who might pick it up after I'm gone. and and have fun writing. But another tip that I think Shelley brought to our group and I want to hand out is making that list of memories. What was it, 45? I think I got over 50 written down so far. That was very helpful to go, I do know a lot. I do remember a lot. And also looking at photographs, old family photos. These things can be is just inspiring or jogging your memory. Like, I'd like to write about that. And I was telling to somebody the other day that we were just talking. I was like, oh my gosh, now I don't see, I didn't write the memory down. And now I'm sitting here going, I don't know what I said I needed to write about. But yeah, but it'll come back. But we all, just we all work differently. And so my encouragement would be you're not us and you are you. So you work as you see best. Find things to read. And if you just have to get a spiral notebook and start making silly notes. I even draw cartoon characters occasionally just for fun, funny smiley faces. But the whole point is, right, ladies, get started. Get
Yes.
started. Just start writing. I've got a good friend here in the area, and he always, whenever I send him something I wrote, he goes, keep writing, don't ever stop, keep writing. Those are his words to me every single time. You got to start and you got to keep going, but don't put yourself, I mean, if you're a kind of person that needs a schedule, do it. If you
Mm.
don't, because you put pressure on yourself that you don't need if you don't work that way. And I don't work that way either. So what final advice can we give our listeners? We're going to wrap it up here in the next couple of minutes. What else would y'all like to share to benefit anybody who's even remotely thinking about it?
Go out and experience different things, like try different locations, different foods, different music, different people, different places in the world, so that you keep your mind alive and that you start thinking about who you are in the world.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. How about Shelley, Mona, any final thoughts?
I can add on to what Anna said too, because I truly believe that become a lifelong learner. That also makes a good writer. The more you read, the more you see, the more you do, the different types of people you interact with, makes your life better and the lives of others as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Shelley, any final words?
Yeah, borrowing from Julia Cameron again, take long take long walks and pay attention.
Mhm.
Yeah, about that.
Nature can teach us a lot, just being outside and breathing fresh air, listening to the birds. I love the birds. I love listening to the birds sound because we don't know what they're saying. Wouldn't it be cool if we had a way of interpreting? But anyway, I will
But
be.
well, Janice, before you finish, we have a question for you. Why don't
Yes.
you tell your audience why you enjoy our group and why you invited us here today?
Well,
Did
first
we
of
do
all,
a good job?
yeah, you did great. I'll give you applause there. And considering I will tell on you that you wouldn't get on camera, but you're here. Thank you very much. And all of your information, I will definitely share the links to buy the books like Anna's and Mona's that are actually published, and mine, of course. Shelley, you don't have yours published yet, but soon enough.
No.
But we'll have your contact information if anybody wants to reach out. That will be at the end of the recording. And I am just really happy we finally did this. And the reason I love our writers group is you hold me accountable, and we don't mince words with each other. We're like, okay, you need to fix this, and this doesn't sound right. And why did you write this? I'm totally, I mean, question marks at times, like, I don't understand what this means. So, we're honest and the accountability piece is a big, big deal. We meet every other week and we all share our writings two at a time so we don't overwhelm each other. But I love it. I love meeting in this group. It has really, really opened my eyes and changed my whole perspective for what I read and what I write.
And as a digital group, there's no red pens of correction, right? We don't get to see all the markups, right? So that's pretty cool.
Well, Anna was a school teacher, so we don't get an A
Yeah.
plus. We're always looking for an A plus, but she doesn't always give it.
No.
I don't like grades.
I know, I don't like them either.
This
So,
is a pass fail group, by the way.
Okay, that's better.
and
No
right
one,
now we're all
no one fails.
No one fails. Yes.
Harvard Medical School has pass fail, so I'm sure we can have authors group that are pass fail.
Yep, but nobody's failing, so we're all good. We're all good.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I want to thank
Some days it might feel like it though.
oh, absolutely. I just want to thank our audience for joining us, for listening, and reach out to any one of us if you have questions or need a little inspiration to get going. We're a fun loving group of gals and just enjoy each other's time and writing. Thank you, audience. Again, this is Janice Debo signing off for Courage, Confidence, Connections podcast with Anna, Shelley, and Mona. And we'll be back with another episode soon. Stay tuned.